Welcome back to another podcast episode. This one was interesting because we started talking about how one random LinkedIn post ended up leading us going to the New York Stock Exchange. And that turned into a bigger conversation about why we don't really care about going viral and we care more about reaching the right people. Then we started talking about find help and how much of a big promise it actually is to tell people, if you go to TenderCare's Find Help, tell us what's going on. And within 24 hours, we will give you a personalized care plan. When you say that out loud, it is a huge promise and a huge responsibility. And I think that's why the work that we do is so important to all of us, because we understand what a huge responsibility that is. And we don't want to fumble that. So I hope you enjoy this episode.
I really need to start remembering that we have these, because I just never, maybe that's my most authentic self. I'm like, I should really put on some mascara or something.
Why do you say that?
Because I feel like, I'm just constantly living in my pajamas. Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. Thank you for always being willing to carve out time for this. I appreciate it. I think the audience appreciates it. The very small podcast audience that we have appreciates it.
Small but dedicated group.
Yeah, very small but dedicated. I was just reflecting on the New York Stock Exchange thing that you did. First of all, the way that you deliver and talk about TenderCare is getting so much more dialed in. I don't know if you were practicing backstage or if this is just becoming part of your natural language. Like, I don't know what it is, but it was really dialed in.
You're like, wow, we're getting tighter, tightening up. I was actually practicing. It takes me, this is like, I'm the good old suburban mom. So it took me a solid hour and a half to drive in from my house to New York Stock Exchange. And I found the coolest hack. Highly recommend this, although you don't need it, Chris, which is you can just go ahead and upload any of the questions that you're going to need to answer into ChatGPT, and then basically use the talk mode on it to go back and forth in conversation. So I'm just sitting there talking to myself for an hour and a half before I finally got to New York Stock Exchange. So you can thank me getting it all out with poor ChatGPT for an hour and a half before that one. And so I'm glad you noticed. That's basically the secret. Just talk to yourself all day long while you're in the car.
I mean, it paid off, because when you watch it back, all of your answers are very concise, but you leave nothing out, and you say exactly what you need to say, and then you get out.
Yeah, ChatGPT was yelling at me a lot. Like, you need to get there faster. Okay. We got to tighten up.
I thought what was really interesting was I genuinely thought that connection was random and that they saw your content, which part of that is true. But I didn't realize how many people you actually know in this world and how connected you are to so many different places and people.
You know so many more people than I do. So I take that as high praise from you. I didn't know about that, by the way, until I showed up, that I had a friend who was rooting for us. But isn't that how most things happen? Like, everywhere is so human. We think of these places like they're not run by humans, right? And so that's such a fallacy, right? Everywhere is actually run by humans. And it was really cool to know that we had a friend at New York Stock Exchange. But I don't know. I still don't quite understand how all of that went down. I still think that was like a little bit of the algorithms playing to our favor, because I think Joe must have liked something on LinkedIn, and then another member of the LinkedIn team probably saw what he liked, and then they reached out to us.
That's why I'm such a huge fan of posting content, right? Like, the amount of opportunity that you're allowed when you post, when you get over when you get over yourself and you get over your ego and you're willing to post something. If you were to take a look at that specific post, I think it was the one where you were telling your dad about TenderCare. I guess outside looking in, you would see it as like, oh, it didn't explode. It wasn't a viral post, but it opened up the door to being able to talk to on the stage of New York Stock Exchange, which I think is so fascinating.
And we talk about this a lot, depth versus how broad you go. I think if you can find the right one person, that's so much better than an army of the wrong people. I really question the idea of viral these days. It's great if you can find a lot of the right people. I think that's the best of all. But if you have to choose between a lot of the wrong people or just even one of the right people, you got to take the second on that one. I think about that with our tenderIDs. We send out thousands of those into the wild. And if they say, like, you tell me, I look at you and I say, Chris, based off of the last year, we did all this effort. We licked all these envelopes. We had all these parties where we were pulling tenderIDs, into envelopes and sending them out across the country. And you only saved 2 lives because of it. Would it be worth it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, right? Like, hell yeah. 2 people are walking this earth because of those crazy late night envelope stuffing wildness. That's so worth it. So I do think that depth matters. And I don't think it gets any deeper than saving somebody's life. That's about as deep as it goes.
I mean, yeah, I was just reading through. I mean, we were trying to get some new videos for the website, and a friend, aka a user of ours, she sent in a real life story of her using her tenderID with her grandfather. Her mom is the primary caregiver for her dad, which is her grandfather, and there was an accident and EMS came, and although she knew the medication like the back of her, she knew all of his medications like the back of her hand. She knew all of his ailments, everything that there would be possibly need to know about this guy. She knew, but in the moment that these 6 men came in rushing in, she forgot all of it. And when they scanned the tenderID, it just immediately popped up everything that he was going through, everything he takes. And she was like, wow, this is such a life-saving tool. So simple, but it saved my grandfather's life. So,
like, how did that make you feel when you heard that?
It makes all of the licking and all of the sending out worth it, because you get a real sense for, like, this is actually like when we were sending out all the tenderIDs before we found somebody to help us out with that. You can kind of get a sense for, like, oh, these are actual real people, because you see the addresses and you see names that you know. But it isn't until you hear a real life scenario where this thing is being used that you make the connection, like, oh, this tool is actually going to save someone's life.
Yeah, it's wild. What a cool legacy. That's like, it doesn't get better than that.
I was replying to somebody this morning about a comment he made on a video where I was talking about tender care and find help. And he was like, well, what are you selling then? And then I had to sit back and think, like, well, I know what he's asking. It almost sounds passive aggressive in a way, but, like, when I started listing the sort of responsibility that we have sort of given ourselves and the promise that we make, it's a huge promise that we're making to our users. If you go through the intake and tell us your situation, we will then respond within 24 hours of a care plan. But if you think about the implications of that, like, that's a huge responsibility, and it's a big promise that we're making for somebody. And I was like, wow, this is serious. This is some serious stuff here. And I was like, I didn't realize, like, how big of a promise that was.
Yeah. And that's to me the most important and the coolest part, because by using technology to be able to make that promise, we can actually now offer it to people. Because so much of that, if you didn't have technology, would be so wildly time consuming and expensive. You need to have a whole staff that's standing by 24/7, ready to pick up the phone, do an intake, which is going to take so long for each call. Then you're going to need to, like, send all of that intake over to someone else, probably, who at some point in their day is going to have to find time to go start doing some research and looking through, pouring through, all of the different directories and trying to figure out what to say. Then they're going to have to go type all of this out What are you looking at? You're looking at probably at the least, maybe like 7 hours of a person's day. That's probably like a whole work day. That's without using technology. I think we've gotten this down to all of the best of that expertise, even better, I'd argue, like the full power of the internet and all of the best expertise from elder law attorneys, social workers, from, even like senior move managers and planners. And we've gotten it down to like 2 minutes. So yeah, if it sounds crazy, because a few years ago, that would have been crazy for us to offer that, then it is a responsibility. But I think that's also why we got into this business. We knew someone needed to step up and help shoulder some of that responsibility, because the system today currently isn't, right? So not my problem, not it, right? And so every family is just falling through the holes of not it as they're ping-ponging around the healthcare system and doctors and your pharmacist and Google. And no one wants to say, hey, I've got you, and I'm going to step up to the plate and be part of the answer for you. That's, to me, the hat trick. To be able to pull this off and to be there, to stand up and be willing to do that, that's where you're solving problems that matter, right? So yeah, it is a big risk. I love that you started to go through that exercise and kind of walk through, well, what are you selling? It's like, we're selling a way better way to do this. Like, this is something you should sign off on for how you want your own kids to have to think through taking care of you. We are creating an entire new way of making a more transparent, more trustworthy system, and finding a way for businesses to underwrite bringing that trust into the system by being the ones who pay for us to vet them, to audit them, to do background checks on them. That's good for families, for business. That's what we're selling. We're selling trust, which everywhere else is in pretty short supply these days.
So true. And shout out to the businesses that have that have partnered with us and have allowed us to vet them and see if they're legit. Because I think that says a lot about somebody if you're willing to let people peek under the cover and see what's going on. Because you're not afraid of what we'll find. Exactly.
You got nothing to hide, right? Like, we already know anyone who's a bad actor isn't coming anywhere near us because they're never going to get let on. They're like, oh, nope, I'm running the opposite direction, right? Because we never let them on. So yeah, that was the light bulb moment for me. I was like, I believe in this version of the world that we are pulling into reality, alongside all the businesses who believe in us, all the families who've taken the bet with us. There's like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to go look for help. You're going to come to us. We're going to try and help you. The upside is we actually do. We actually give you a plan. We give you a path. What's the downside? You spent 2 minutes on this? Okay. Feels like that's our bet worth taking. It's free. So why not?
I love that. It's free. What do you have to lose? Except 2 minutes of your time. Sounds like a great deal to me. The upside is so good. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, that should be our new tagline. What do you have to lose? Just 2 minutes. I'm curious what your thoughts are on, I guess Find Help has been live now for almost 2 weeks. Traffic to the site is up. But we've been running into, I don't want to say it's an issue, but we've been running into some speed bumps with the landing page. Can you speak to that and sort of what changes we're making to make sure that doesn't happen?
I think so much of building an effective product or solution is making it really clear what it's going to fix. And right out of the gate, we started to get feedback from our families, from those who are trying out Find Help, that we weren't being really clear about what this experience actually offered when you hit the landing page. We also, importantly, weren't considering how someone felt when they got there. We, I think, have been doing a really good job of explaining why this matters on social media. Here's the stories, here's what it can do. But then you hit the landing page and it's very clinical. It's almost kind of corporate, And so all of a sudden you go from feeling like inspired and motivated, like, yeah, I need to come find some help. And then it's like what are we doing here? And I think there's a total mismatch that we need to go back to the drawing board and figure out, one, what is the emotional reality that we need to make very clear to someone who's coming in and hearing about the stories and the impact of find help that needs to feel continuous, right? And not disruptive. And then the second piece of that is, how are we actually explaining ourselves? What do they have to expect by coming in to find help with us? We need to bring that out. It's buried in our first version of Find Help. You had to go through like 3 steps to actually understand what this process was. And so I think we've done a lot better job of being able to help someone understand, hey, it's a 2-minute intake. All you got to do is answer some questions. It's going to go super fast. And then you're going to have an actual care expert review all of your answers and then send you back your own personalized plan just for you within 24 hours. That's it. Like, that's the process. But that wasn't anywhere really on our first version out of the gate. So it took talking to some of our users to really get that. And we're about to come out with a brand new version on, I think, tomorrow. I'm so excited. It's such a leap forward. I think we've done a lot better job based off of just honestly asking people what's confusing. How could we make this simpler, more clear, how we're actually giving you the help you're looking for.
I'm excited to see people's reaction to V2 of what's coming. Switching gears a little bit, you've been talking a lot about AI and different tools that you've been trying out, which in the demonstration that you showed us earlier this week was super fascinating, given how chaotic, and sorry to, I guess, expose how chaotic your laptop is, which is, I can understand why it's always dying now. Can you just talk about like what you've been playing around with and what you've learned?
Yeah. I mean, a dream for a sandwich caregiver like any of us who are out there, because we're always trying to make 48 hours out of 24. So this is perfect for someone like me who needs to move 5 times as fast as a normal person in order to cover as much ground as I need to across my dad, my mom, my 4 kids, my work. That is an inhuman task that I have to rise to meet every day. And so with all of these new tools hitting the market, this is like me in a candy shop trying to figure out what actually works. Because you're right, my laptop always has like 3,000 tabs open. I have these crazy, you should see my desktop up until now, crazy. The number of emails in my inbox, crazy. But this is chaos by design. And I say that because I have found systems where I have no wasted energy. I don't want to take the extra moment to delete an email. Like, that's wasted time. I don't want to go sit there and organize a folder. Like, that is not the best use of my time in a day when I've got to make sure I'm hitting all the doctor's appointments. I'm getting my kids to school. I'm staying on the front edge of technology and bringing that into the aging and elder care economy. That's bad use of my time. I literally am crazy enough where I will not respond to most texts or read them if I can kind of understand from the title of the text. You know how we all have like the 4 words of what a text says when it comes through? If I get it, most of us can get it, by the way. Like, try this. If you look and you see a text coming in, you don't need to open it up to actually know what the rest of the text says. So I just won't even read them, most of them. And so what it looks like to this is how I justify my crazy. So what this looks like to an outside observer is like psycho, right? It just looks insane. But what it is just economy of energy and motion. So why this matters, when you have all these tools that now I can delegate to, great, Claude Cowork, go organize my desktop for me. I want this, categorized by most important topic. I want this, by soonest to last in terms of time to upload. You go do it. I'm not doing it, right? So it's amazing because now there's these tools that aren't just, it's not a chat interface going back and forth. I don't need another person to chat with. I've got so many already. What I need is someone to go do these things for me and help me manage my life. So it's been really fun pushing these systems as far as I can. What skills, what projects, who can I get on my team? That's not even a real person. It's a GPT, right? We're talking about that today. that is going to help me make those 24 hours into something closer to 48. And I love bringing the team along with me because so many of us are already like finding hacks for different things. So sharing that knowledge, it just means we can spend a lot more of the time in our lives, our day, on the things that we do want to spend our time on, and a whole lot less on the things that are, quite frankly, pretty wasteful and should be offloaded and automated anyways.
Well, I remember when you told me that you were really into tech, I sort of understood what that meant. I mean, you come from big tech and you you work with a lot of these people, but seeing that on your own time, that you're playing around with different tools and seeing and learning, that's when I really understood, like, oh, she really actually does, like, genuinely is, like, she's very into this, and she'll like go spend her own time like learning.
Yeah, let's go deep. I know I terrify all of our engineers. I'm like, I'm in my terminal. I'm like, I've got OpenClaw already. They're like, stop. I'm self-aware enough to understand, it's like a wrecking. But playing with these tools, these are new paintbrushes. They're new mediums for us. So yeah, you gotta love it. Technology, this is the kind of stuff that changes whole societies. I've watched this happen multiple times now, been in this game long enough. You see a technology come through and there's a time before and there's a time after and you never go back. Like, how crazy is that? There was a time in my lifetime when people didn't have internet. There was dial-up. I remember my dad had a pager. Like, what? Right? I guess now the cool kids have pagers again. I don't know. It's coming back, I guess. But yeah, these tools that we're now playing with, they're going to be so commonplace. They're going to look so old to our kids. These ones right now, they're brand new to us, but you can already feel it. We're never going back. This is the new normal.
Has any of this, I guess, newness intimidated you in any way?
It's a good question. No, I feel like I'm in the prime of my life. I think I'd be intimidated if I was slowing down, right? Because you can hear it from those who've already had their run. They're like, oh, this is for the young kids, like, oh man. Because I think you kind of like get crusty. Like, that takes a lot, right? And once you hit a certain point in life, like you're used to your tools and your tools are your tools. And it's just disruptive when new tools come in. But I'm still in the open mode. Like I'm constantly looking to optimize and bring new tools in. And it's also just fun trying to play with some of this stuff. Like what I really haven't gotten time for, but I know you have, is some of the cool tools they have for making music now. That looks super fun. I can't justify that because it's not making my life more productive. But if I had unlimited time, I would totally be trying my hand at country songs, children's books or whatever. All of that now is more possible to people than it ever was before.
I'm very pro AI and pro tech. And when I started seriously streaming music that wasn't created by a human, I think my whole world changed, because it's like, I guess before, if you would have asked, maybe like 5 years ago, if you would have asked me if I would have listened to music that wasn't actually created by a human, would I? I'd probably say no. Music has to come from the soul, has to come from a person. But the fact that I could spend like 3 hours just listening to a playlist of songs that I genuinely enjoy that weren't created by anybody.
Okay, now you need to share the playlist in the comments. Like we can't.
100% will. And I know all of my music homies are gonna tear me apart for listening to that and enjoying it. But genuinely, I feel like everybody will come across a piece of music that they'll enjoy and then come to find out that this is actually this wasn't created by a real person. And then it breaks your brain and you're like, oh, maybe I'm not as anti as I thought I was.
Yeah. I mean, I think about this, like, are we anti-whale song? Like, no. Let them do their thing, man. Right? Like, why not? Let the bots have their concerts. Like, I'm so fine with that, especially if it's good or catchy. I think I just saw like a whole production studio was just launched by some major director in Hollywood that's only focused on AI. I think I saw that headline fly by this week. Good for them. I'm here for it. I bet there's going to be a lot of really interesting art that gets created. I just think these are tools, right? Just the same way we have every other tool. And we should embrace what makes them interesting to us while not losing sight of the fact that we are in charge of the tools. The tools are not in charge of us.
Another thing I was thinking about recently when I was looking at all of the stuff that we're planning for on-site coming up, which I'm super excited about. I remember seeing on the calendar that we had a team meeting, but it was an in-person team meeting. And I remember sitting there, I guess feeling a little emotional about that, because it's like we rarely get to spend time together as a team, as a full team, because most of us work remotely. And then it just got me thinking about like what life of a remote worker and like the pros and cons of that, and the pros and cons of having a real team like in person. And that I feel like that is really hard to replicate remotely. It's like with all the tools and stuff that we have, like we have so many tools at our disposal, but like it's really hard to replace in person, like working together.
I mean, there's magic. I mean, there's so much magic from just sharing a room together. And that's not some woo-woo thing. Your brain is actually picking up on thousands of different nonverbal signals from those in the room with you. And it makes for such a richer experience. What you're seeing on a screen when we talk to each other on screen is a compression or a flattening out, where it's filtering out so many of those signals. So the actual experience of connecting is not the same, right? It's kind of like when you hear audiophiles talk about the difference between vinyl versus digital, right? And how much richer it becomes when you're not compressing a lot of that data out. That was a very tech answer for like, I think what is ultimately about being very human together. But yeah, I love it too. I think that's why even when you're remote, there's a lot of benefits to that. There's flexibility. People can be near their families, but it should always be intentional about when are you going to plan the next thing where you then together, because it's meaningful. And some of it has nothing to do with actually getting work done. It's just being able to share meals together, right? Go back and forth in transportation with one another. That sort of bonding that I think is so uniquely human, such an important part of, I think, building great things too. I never understand the companies who are like, we never meet. We do everything async, or even earlier today, I fired everyone. I just work with GPTs today. I didn't want to I was sort of like monologuing, so I didn't want to say anything, but I was like, well, have you at least made them funny? Like, do they have humor? Like, do they have personalities? Like, I don't want to just talk to GPTs. Can you imagine? Like, do you give them a fake backstory to make them more interesting?
That's hilarious that you were having the same thought, because I was like, wait, you work with nobody? That's insane.
Nobody but GPTs. I was like, okay, that's taking it one GPT too far. I'm not ready for that future.
So is that something that you were intentional about when you first started TenderCare? Like and maybe not intentional about, but like, is that something you were thinking about in the beginning when you were starting to find your key players? Like, were you looking for people who had close proximity to you, or were you just open to the idea of having a fully remote team?
I mean, you have to remember, I started TenderCare basically in the beginning, weird ending of COVID. So I had already gone for years remote. No one in the world was spending any time together except in pods. So even in my old workplace, when I worked at Facebook, we were all separate from each other, and the world really wasn't ready to get back into the same room again. There was still a lot of lingering weirdness around that. Like, now we've gotten back to return to office and everybody's gung ho, but that was not kind of the zone when TenderCare was first formed. So at that point I was like, hey, I don't know, like, I'm going to find my people, but wherever they are is okay to me, because we're all living on Zoom anyways. Since then, I've really gotten back to being like, I really love having people together. And so it's been nice. I think we've got a good hybrid thing going where we have so many members like you who are able to tap in and tap out and stay near your family, but like a pretty strong center of gravity in New York City. I also really like New York City because at that point, San Francisco had gotten, it's not anymore. And I'm a longtime San Francisco, so I feel like I can say this without being too obnoxious. Like, it had gotten really like one note. It was only tech at that point, and it felt like every single person was working in tech and had nothing else to say about the world than working in tech. And so I liked having a company in somewhere like New York City where there's like 15 different industries. And on any given day, you're talking to artists, you're talking to dancers, you're talking to, climate policy thinkers, you're talking to some tech. And that's what makes New York City, New York City. You're talking to chefs. And I really liked building something that felt much more inclusive and in an environment in which we could be bringing in inspiration from so many different places to solve this problem, as opposed to just coming in from one direction that I felt pretty strongly didn't have the answers to what it means to age well at that point. It felt like, one, tech is a very young industry for the most part. And so the idea of having real empathy for what it's like to be a senior, what it's like to age, didn't seem like that was really densely concentrated in that industry. And also I had seen from working in tech, coming in hot with a lot of like, well, we're so smart. We know how to do this better than anyone. And so we're just going to be the ones to come in here and solve everything. Didn't feel like the right approach to the problem we are trying to solve, which is actually coming in service of an industry that has already been going for thousands of years, right? How we take care of our elders. How do you learn from those who have devoted their lives to this work and bring that in to how the tech could better serve them? So it felt like a totally different play, and I intentionally wanted to keep it out of Silicon Valley.
So you're saying San Francisco is uninspiring? I'm kidding.
My God. I come from 4 generations who've been in San Francisco, so they are all either rolling in their graves right now or like very upset. No, I think it's changed. It seems like it's opening back up again. And you have to remember, my version of San Francisco was San Francisco Chinatown. That's where my great-grandma's apartment was. So I grew up in a very different flavor of San Francisco than the one that I think a lot of people think of when they think of all the tech employees who have kind of concentrated in there. But it's changed now. It's been a couple years. I'm feeling pretty good about the energy San Francisco's bringing now. And I can easily see us having an office at some point, West Coast in San Francisco.
So is there any part of you that wants to push for a more in-person company?
I want us to have in-person spaces and places to do great work. I also want to be intentionally flexible. We're a company that's devoted to caregivers. And if you actually talk to anyone on our team, what they're doing during the middle of the day, they're tapping in to take their kid to the ER, or going to go support a mother-in-law for a knee surgery, or they're there to put their kid to bed before it gets too dark out. I think we have to practice what we preach. And when you look at what is best for caregivers, they often are looking for flexibility. And in fact, those who tap out of the workforce are because their employers are not flexible. So what I would love to have is a sort of nuanced, inclusive approach where we have beautiful, vibrant, very well-appointed spaces for creativity and collaboration in our major cities, New York City, San Francisco, like expand where we need to, but that it's okay if you need to be home for something. Like instead, the responsibility should be on us to hire the right geniuses who are able to do great work, whether they're in the office or out of the office, regardless of like what external responsibilities they have. That's kind of my take. I don't think black and white is ever the right way to do anything. And I think offering a different approach is actually going to help us continue to build a very special team. Like, can you imagine, Chris, if I was like, no, you got to move from Las Vegas right now. Like, you need to be in the Flatiron. I know you have this dream of, making sure that all of your family can live together and you can be part of a community. That's great for you. But it's more important that you show up in the Flatiron every day. And, I can see your face on the 12th floor. What? That would be terrible. But you should also be coming out and booking flights all the time. So that way we can
100%
in person, right? So I think that's how we get around it.
Speaking of employers who can't be flexible, we've been getting some inbound from companies wanting, either TenderCare to just be a resource for the company or whatever the case may be. Does this throw you back to when you were sort of running a group for where you used to work?
Yeah, an employee resource group.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, this was the inspiration for going out and building Tender Care, was all the thousands of people who were like, go do this. This needs to be fixed, from the employee resource group. So it's so cool to be tapping back into those communities that, work in all kinds of the big companies that we recognize. I always knew this was going to be a zone we would go back to as soon as we had built enough features that really meaningfully help people. I knew that it wasn't going to be the first place that we would start because they move really slow and because it takes a lot in order for, a very big corporation to go through the entire procurement process of bringing on a new service. You're talking about like a year minimum, right? Which is just not startup speed, how we operate. But I always knew that was going to be a pit stop, down the road in Candyland when we had checked off a few more boxes, So I'm not surprised. I think it's an amazing way for employers to step up and give more support to their employees. They need it. They're crying out for it, even if they're not telling you that they are. I know this, having been on the inside as a moderator of these ERGs. So they're going to be a really important partner for us as we continue to scale and get Tender Care out there to more and more families.
So exciting. Are there any other partnerships coming up or maybe new ones that you're excited about for Tender Care?
We got a couple that are in the works. I'm a superstitious person, so I never like to mention them until it's signed, sealed, delivered. There are some really interesting things happening around hardware with us right now. I'll say that much. There's continuing to be really interesting things happening and bring some of these government resources out to families and make sure that they know about them and that they can take advantage of them. They're totally free and it's amazing. And the battle is making sure the right people know about some of these programs. So there's more of that coming. I think we're ready to partner with anyone who understands the value of aging better. What does that look like? What does that look like for health and wellness? How do we get even more proactive about thinking through what help we need before we're sick? That's really cool, right? We know there's so many upstream benefits from starting to work out more regularly, eat well. These are all available to us. So I'm excited to start to expand our definition of what our trusted network looks like, what categories are in our marketplace. You're going to see a lot more of these more proactive parts of aging, and a whole bunch of partners who are raising their hands to be the first to come out and plant a flag and say, like, vet me. I want to be out there and I want to show that what I'm doing is worthy of being on the platform and in consideration for how you're thinking about this or how you're thinking about this for a loved one.
If somebody missed the last two episodes that we put out, could you just give a quick spiel on what Guide is?
Guide is it's a new Medicare initiative for dementia and Alzheimer's. And it's an amazing initiative, which basically comes from a place of saying, look, those of you who have a family member or yourself who's living with Alzheimer's or dementia, we see you, we recognize you need more support. And so we, the government, want to make sure that you have more infrastructure and actual real resources available to you to then think about what it looks like to live at home. And so what Guide has offered is for anyone who's on Medicare, traditional Medicare, Part A and B, who is either currently living with Alzheimer's or dementia or has a family member who is, they can go ahead and see if they're eligible. It's like a 2-minute intake process. You can do it on trytendercare.com. It takes very little time. And on the other side, if you meet all of their criteria, I won't go through all of it, but it's things like you don't live in assisted living facility, you're living at home, stuff like that. Then you are entitled to $2,500 a year in respite services. And what is respite? Respite is basically just help coming in and helping you. This could be with things like, your groceries, taking your medications, bathing, helping you get from one place to another. $2,500 a year in a professional service coming in and helping you and maybe giving a family member a break. You can do this all at once in one go. So maybe this is because you need to go out for a really important job interview, or you want to take a break. You want to bring your kids, camping. You can take that. That's all free of charge. And then on top of that, you're paired up with a care navigator who can actually come in, do a full home safety check to make sure there's not anything, things like rugs in the wrong place or poorly lit hallways that are going to end up being a real crisis, like a fall, and ending up in the emergency room. And then ongoing help every month from a care expert, a care navigator who can check in with you and your family, make sure everything's going well, provide suggestions, help with resources if something's changed, help you find community resources. Let's say if you're looking for more socialization, more activities, this is what Guide offers. It's ongoing. It's for the next 7 years, or I guess 6 and almost 7 years. Why not take advantage of this? And so we're so excited. We're offering this in all 50 states. So anyone who's eligible for this, you can go ahead and check it out, see if you are eligible, and then we'll connect you right away to how to best access all of those benefits, take advantage of them, and just make sure that you're getting the support you deserve.
When I was taking care of my grandmother, I guess I just didn't know about resources like this. And even if somebody were to tell me like, hey, you could receive up to $2,500 in respite care, I would think it sounds too good to be true. And I wouldn't even know what that would look like in my life. And I know that there are many caregivers listening to this who are hearing what you're saying. They think it sounds great, but they have no idea. Like it's hard to envision a life with that. Could you just speak to that a little bit?
Who says that in real life? Like, I don't think I've ever been like, I really need some respite. No, you say, I need a break, right? That's what I mean though. Like, God bless the government, but there's like words that just are not actually used by real humans. And I think that's half of the problem, why we don't ever take advantage of these things. So yeah, what does it actually look like? It means that you now have the ability to bring someone in to your home to ensure that your loved one is taken care of. You've got air cover so that you can step out, right? You can go either continuously for a few days, $2,500 worth of someone else's time where you can take a break, or you can do this ongoing, a couple hours every week. Maybe you want to go out and go for a run. That's where you use that. And what's really cool about doing that through TenderCare is that we connect you to the businesses that have gone through our vetting process. So these are all the best ones. These are the ones I would feel fine bringing into my own dad's life, right? If he lived all over the country. These are good businesses. These are like people you can trust coming in to give you that kind of a break. So as far as I'm concerned, again, like I go back to this, but I'm like, why not? Like, why, some of us don't know how to take a break. I'm kind of one of them. I get it. Like, you're like, no one can do it as good as I can. I'm going to be in there. I'm going to but every once in a while, like you get sick, you have the flu, you need to go lie down. That's when this matters. That's when this is really useful. We can't be superheroes every day, all day long. Maybe you need to go to your kids' play, right? You need a break. That's what respite is.
Maybe we should rebrand the word respite.
We need respite. I'd be like, what is respite? Take a break, right?
Before we head out, I just wanted to get your thoughts on, I guess, what you hope to get out of the team coming together and hanging out next week. What do you hope to get out of that experience?
It's such a treat for me. I would be doing this over anything else every time because I love our team so much. We have the most genius team. And so to be able to have everyone in one room, this is the most talented group of people. I take so much energy around being around talented people. So that's just first and foremost. What do I actually hope to get out of it? That's going to be good for, TenderCare and our next stage of growth. That's it right there. Growth. We need to get the word out. Right? We need to make sure that the products that we're building, we're pouring our love and our blood, sweat, and tears into are actually being used by the people who need them. So what I'm most interested in is taking all of that genius talent and kind of aiming it at that one single problem. We need to be growing because this isn't just, a chart. This is about real people who need help. These are people who actually are living through the problems that all of us have experienced. So the later we are to the game, the more of them we miss, right? The less of them that we actually can help make this slightly easier for. So to me, the stakes are very high on a human level, and then they're high for us on a startup level. The startups that actually are able to then go on to do incredible things, because doing incredible things takes time, right? You need to be able to pass through the gates to get there. And right now we are living in a zone of hyper speed. And what that looks like is hyper growth, right? So what does it look like for us to be growing quickly enough to be able to justify having the time that it's going to require for us to build all the incredible things that we want to, right? To help equip people with. That requires being able to demonstrate that people really like the things we are building. They need these things, and that's showing up in the number of people who are using them.
Can't wait. You're the best, Shauna. Thank you.
So are you, Chris. So much fun. And I'm also so excited too, because we're constantly adding new members to our team. And so this is an opportunity next week and a half, for us to even meet a few new members who are going to be New York City based, who are new ads that we haven't really announced yet. So it's always good to pull up a seat at the table for one more genius. We got another one coming in, which has not been announced yet, but is going to add some serious gasoline to the way that we think about data.